Hello, hello. Welcome to Sacred Habits, week 4. I'm really happy to be here with you in week 4. This week we are talking about death and rebirth. And I just love how this week lands during our 5 weeks here together. So, as you have likely noticed, as we have gone through all these weeks so far, that every day, and even with our habits and things that aren't our habits, we are constantly going through a death and rebirth process. It's this whole idea, this mindfulness idea around impermanence, that everything in life is impermanent. And that's part of why we're here, really wanting to enter this holy doorway of sacred living, because we understand that life is precious. We understand that we can never go backwards, that each moment is its own special thing that we can never get back and experience ever again. So we are constantly in the process of death and rebirth. And even though this is something that we so often feel like we are fighting against and pushing against, that we hate change, we're digging our heels in, we don't want change, we are afraid of the unknown, we want to know what to expect, there's another part of us that is absolutely at peace and in total flow and tranquility around the fact that life is a death and rebirth process in every moment. So just as one moment is ending, a new moment is beginning. I love to talk about something that I learned. I don't even know where I picked this up, but it was a teacher I was listening to one time who was talking about how the moment that a peach, let's use a peach for example, is perfectly ripe, it's at its juiciest, most ripe state, most delicious, most sweet, most juicy, it's perfectly ripe. The moment it hits its peak of ripeness and deliciousness, it begins to tip and turn into rot. It starts to tip into the death process. And there's nothing wrong with that. That is a part of what nature does. You can look at it throughout the seasons as well too. Spring comes forth, and as soon as the flowers begin to bloom and it's at its maximum bloom, right? It then begins to wilt and die. And we go through similar processes in our hearts and our minds and our spirits. We go through it with the dishes in the sink, right? Where we make dinner, we make a bunch of dirty dishes, we have plates full of food, and then we eat that food, and now we have dirty plates that need to be washed and go into the dishwasher, and we do all the dishes, and then everything is cleaned up, and then we have to start that process all over again tomorrow. So when we are looking at the death and rebirth process, we're understanding that life is constantly in motion, and we are constantly in motion in this death and rebirth process. So some of this week is just making peace with this reality. And one of the questions this week, when you go into the sacred practices under our reflective prompts, the additional prompt this week is, what can I let go of? What can I let go of? How can we consciously choose to release our grip on things, on trying to control things, where making them fit into life and all of its little boxes and make all the outcomes work out exactly how we want the outcomes to work out? How can we let go and loosen our grip and allow things to reveal themselves, allow life to reveal itself to us in maybe more beautiful ways and larger possibilities than we could imagine with our tiny imaginations. So as much as we can imagine beautiful outcomes, there are so many more infinite outcomes for us that we could never actually imagine. So part of the death process is letting things go, allowing things to actually die, allowing moments to end, allowing something beautiful to pass away so that another new beautiful thing can come in, or even allowing pains or hurts or judgments. Like last week, we were really practicing self-compassion. How can we let the judgment and the shame and the embarrassment or the self-criticism, how can we let that die so that we're making space and room for a new way of living and being and breathing and understanding and seeing ourselves to come in to replace it. So it's some of death process is the clearing out process and the making peace with the fact that this is always happening, right? I think I had another point in there, but I lost it because I caught I caught another track I wanted to talk about. So maybe we'll come back to whatever I was going to say, or maybe we won't. And again, that's a part of the making peace, letting things die, not trying to grasp for things that have already left, whether that's mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, people, places, things, etc., etc. So really also looking at how this applies to your habit. As you will notice, your habit has probably gone through a death and rebirth process over and over again, noticing that what started as an idea, oh, this is the habit I'm going to do every day, and then we start practicing. Once we start getting in there, things start to become real. They start to materialize, and we start to become more intimate with what it is that we've chosen. And in that, we're also making choices around which direction we want to go, and what is your habit showing you. And for many of us, we aren't going to end this program doing the same habit that we chose to begin with. Our habit is going to evolve over time. It's going to go through a transformation process as we go through a transformation process. So your habit isn't going to look the same now as it did at the beginning, and it's not going to look the same by the time we're done with the program as it does now. And that's part of really allowing ourselves, and that's the creative process too. What starts as an idea, I had this idea to start this program, Sacred Habits. It was just an idea. And then I started taking steps for it. And it was through taking the steps of creating this program that the program revealed itself to me, and what wanted to be created revealed itself to me. And that's the beauty of not always trying to figure out what's going to happen in the unknown. So much of this is stepping forward in faith that we're going to start with what we can start with today, and we're going to allow the unfolding unknown to continue happening, and we're going to keep stepping forth and being co-creators with this thing called life. It's so fucking good. And that is the transformational process. So as we're looking at our practices this week, I have some really fun practices for you. Practice number 1, when you go into the sacred practices space, practice number 1 is letting yourself die. And this is a 2-part practice, and you can choose to do both parts or just one part. The first part is writing your own eulogy. If you could attend your own funeral, what would you want people to say? What would you want the celebration to look like? What do you want people to say about you when you die? This is huge, because in this practice, you are deciding the type of person you want to be and the type of life you want to live. You're making a declaration for yourself in this practice. So what is it you would want people to say at your funeral? That was my note that just fell. I don't need it. Beautiful practice. Write your own eulogy. And how does that feel for you, and what comes up for you as you, and this is part of even the facing the death process, and the making peace with the fact that you're going to die, I'm going to die, we're all going to die. And that also makes life feel more precious, and this moment feel more holy, and it taps us into more beauty. And what's the kind of life that you want to be living? And it's really confronting process, and I hope that you enjoy it. The second part of that, letting yourself die, is having a burial for yourself. Imagining that you are actually attending your funeral. Maybe you're reading your eulogy. You take a little talisman or something with you that you can bury. It's all written out for you in the sacred practices space. You can take any part of it and make it your own, but go somewhere, bury something, stand over your metaphorical grave, read your eulogy, let yourself die. If there's anything that you're ready to let go of in your life, that you're holding on to, relationships, attitudes, beliefs, anything, bury it. Write it out and then bury it, and have a funeral for it, and say goodbye to maybe some of the parts of yourself that you're ready to let go of, or some things you've been carrying around for a long time that you're ready to let go of, and see how that lifts you. And then go do something fun, go run in the ocean, or take yourself out on a date, or do something to celebrate. Do the celebration of life, of the new life that is now available to you, now that you've made room for new life to arrive by letting go of what no longer serves. A piece of this too is basically rewriting your story. We can rewrite our story anytime. We can close a book, we can close a chapter in a book anytime we want, and we can start a new story. So this is also kind of begging the question of, what new story do you want to write for yourself going forward? How can you make this a marker for what no longer is and step into something new. What's the new story you want to write? The second practice is the butterfly practice. And this is like kind of a really simple meditation on the transformation process of a butterfly, from caterpillar to butterfly. So it's usually a 4-step process of metamorphosis, 3 to 4 steps, which is the caterpillar makes the chrysalis, goes into the chrysalis, turns into gelatinous goo, turns into nothing. It forms into the butterfly within the chrysalis, and then it breaks out of that chrysalis as new life with these beautiful wings that it can now, fly on and soar on. So I invite you to just look at, maybe make this an internal process, maybe get out some journals, some pens, some art supplies, go on a walk, see if there's any butterflies or anything, a butterfly representative in your life or in your world. You can do this with flowers as well too. It doesn't have to be the butterfly. We're just looking at the metamorphosis, the transformational process of the natural world around us. So go do that butterfly practice and meditate on the process of the butterfly this week, and how beautiful it is to go through the death and rebirth process. And there might also be some grief in there too, and that's really, really important, to allow yourself to grieve death, to grieve, to bless it, to thank it. I haven't read Marie Kondo's book on the subtle art of tidying up, but I know that one of her practices that she gives in her book is as you're getting rid of things, as you're cleaning things out, as you're clearing things out, as you're decluttering, if you find something you really love but you no longer need and you don't want to keep, thank it. Thank it for its beauty. Thank it for its usefulness. Thank it for the joy it brought you, or what the way that it was of service to you, and then bless it and ask that maybe it find a different home or a better place. And you can do that with any part of your life this week too. Bless it, thank it. Anything you're letting go of, go ahead and grieve the loss of it, but choose to let it go. And we're really clearing out space for new life to come in. And see how your habit supports you in this process. Use your habit as an anchor point for moving through the death and rebirth process. How does your specific habit help you move from attachment into the old, or what wants to die, into the opening to new life that wants to be born? In any of these things, I encourage you to do that. And then of course, go into the classroom space and share your insights if you want to. No pressure. This is your process, but I'm really happy to be here with you. I'm so excited about this week. After this week, we only have one more week left. So also take time to reflect on the process so far and what it's given you, and the changes that have come about just in the subtle ways through this one habit, in the way that, again, everything is connected. Everything is connected. So your one little habit is connected to all areas of your life, and just notice maybe some of the ripple effects that has had as well. Okay. Thank you again for being here. Until next time, may you stay with yourself today and always. Bye.